I'm delighted to introduce Liam Cann, who is the sales manager at ITI. Liam's going to talk to us about streamlining digital workflows. Over to you, Liam.
Brilliant. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Tim. I hope everyone's feeling okay still and enjoying the event so far from some great speakers already. A little bit of an introduction. My name's Liam. I'm relatively new to ITI, having started only at the beginning of the month. So this is my 4th week in the company, but I do have some experience in the industry before, having worked with some of the companies that we've already heard from. So I'm not a complete novice, but yeah, certainly looking forward to talking to you all about some of the issues that you face in shipbuilding design and how to streamline the integrations. So let's move on. Just very quickly go through the agenda. We're going to start by talking about some of the issues that you're faced with on a daily basis when trying to bring models into your design process from clients or vendors, and how simplification of these models can help streamline this for you. Then we'll go through some of the typical and common ways to carry out model simplification, as well as the options available to you with solutions that we can offer as well. So the main problem with large mechanical CAD models and the need for simplification. So historically, ITI were involved in simulation industries, taking mechanical CAD models to defeature them and create meshes, which is how we came about the shipbuilding customers initially. This led to them making the suggestion of simplifying the models for your layout purposes, which we conducted a survey to make sure that we were reaching the right market, really. And it led to some interesting results, which you can see on the screen here. The simple question was, how long do you spend simplifying mechanical CAD equipment models before bringing them into your layout systems? So whether that's manually or trying to do some form. Yeah, the results are quite interesting, because you look at the numbers there, 34% over 8 hours, which is staggering, really, to think that someone's spending a whole day a week just on simplifying models. And then 1 to 3 hours, 43%. That's still a long time. So yeah, it's something that we took on board and started to look into to see if there was a need for model simplification, and it turns out that there obviously was. So why are large models a problem? As you probably know, a lot of data goes into shipbuild design, and there's often little control over what's sent from your clients and vendors. So asking for simplified models sometimes just isn't possible, as much as you'd like it to be. So some customers that I've spoken to have said that they would rebuild a model from scratch, which, as I'm sure you're aware, will take a lot of time. They have to open the model in their CAD system, rebuild the whole thing using primitives just to get a crude representation of the model. This also takes time away from the designers, so they're not doing their actual job, and can be quite monotonous as well. So it's a huge waste of resource and money from a business point of view. Also, the systems that are used for shipbuild design aren't able to deal with such large models, And as we've already heard today, digital twin is something that's going to be becoming a lot more common in the shipbuilding design. So more and more data will be tried to put into there. So it's something that's really worth looking into, and something that can be a problem on a regular basis. So here we have a very simple, dumbed down example of a typical workflow that you might be familiar with, which can cause some problems on many different sides. So to start off with, we have the sender, and they will be sending, in this case, a large skid of 798 megs, and that has got everything that they could possibly want in there. It's got all of the internal workings and ways of being able to manufacture, so that they are ready, prepared, and able to turn that into a manufacturing process. So the things that they might be worried about is their intellectual property. They don't want to be sending all the internals and then that being sent on to other people from there. So yeah, it's something that they might have a bit of an issue with, sending that whole large model. Then you've got people like ship designers saying that really they don't need all that information. As far as they're concerned, they only need a basic shape or points, like the feet, for example, for clash detection or visualization. So to have that much information is just a waste of time for them. and both them and the engineering change control just say that it's too large and it's slowing down the systems. Like I said before, the shipbuilding systems and the layout systems aren't designed to take such big models. And then engineering change control also say it's just not working. I'm just not able to do it. So it's causing some real problems just from the outset. And then you go as far as the field receiver as well. So trying to download such a huge model, 798 megs on cellular connection, just isn't ideal. Uses up lots of mobile data and takes a hell of a lot of time. So yeah, I'd imagine you see this quite often, but this is the kind of thing that we are looking into. So rather than receiving a model in this instance on this slide that's 40 megs with 73,000 faces, it would be much better to receive a similar looking model that is much smaller and is easier to handle, but to still be useful enough for clash detection, to have the right connections to marry up with other parts within the model and work from a visualization point of view. So rather than having 40 megs in this instance, having 1 meg would just make it so much easier to work with, as I'm sure you're all probably aware. And then if we extrapolate that level of data reduction seen in the previous slide across a whole ship, then the savings could be immense. There could well be a requirement to simplify hundreds or thousands of pieces of equipment, which could lead to gigabytes of data savings and integration times of hours instead of days or weeks. So just think some of the examples that we've got here. You've got an engine. Think of that, the amount of pumps, valves, fire extinguishers even, things that there are lots of across the whole ship design that, yeah, you could reduce data. So the typical ways to achieve model simplification, I'm just going to quickly run through those. It might well be things that you're already doing. So remove unwanted small parts. If you think about a general design or model that you use on a day-to-day basis, I'd imagine there's loads of nuts and bolts, washers, gaskets within these, and how much data that is within all these small parts that's just not needed. So, for example, each bolt will most likely have thread definitions, which just aren't important to you. So that's one way to really quickly get rid of data. And then it's also quite likely that there's a huge number of pipes and therefore internal holes, which aren't necessary for plant design. You don't necessarily need to know the internal diameter of a pipe for clash detection or visualization. So removing these can have a massive impact on the overall file size as well. And then you've got other bits and pieces. So surprisingly, logos and text contains a lot of data. So doing something as simple as removing where it says ball valve can make a huge difference. But then there's other things like chamfers, rounds, protrusions, which can also just be really simple way of reducing data. This example, we've got internal parts as well, which are not critical. And if you're just thinking about a layout, aren't necessarily needed. So if you think of pistons and crankshaft in an engine, for example, there's a lot to that just isn't needed. So getting rid of those could help as well. And even simplification as simple, lacking a better word, as replacing complex solids with basic primitives can be time consuming, but have great results. In this case, still looks like the original part, but has a lot less data within the model. So that's a really good visual representation of what we're talking about and what kind of thing we're trying to achieve there. And then finally, things, do you really need to have the complexity of structural beams or struts? Or could you just turn them into very simple bars? So there's 3 different levels of detail that you could have there. And would it be okay to just have a simple bar there instead of all of the complex geometry that's in there? So then if we achieve all of that, then we should end up with a workflow more like this compared to what we had earlier. So the sender's happy because it's a smaller file, taking less time for them to send, protecting their IP. The designer and engineering change controller are having models that are easier to work with, and the person in the field to wait for mobile data to download huge parts. So really, it's win-win all round if we can get to this kind of workflow. So, model simplification options and a solution. There are several ways to get this level of model simplification. Include asking clients or vendors to do this, but they may be reluctant to do so because if you, like I said earlier, if you've got a manufacturer sending you a model, they have everything they need in there. So why would they spend their time and therefore money looking into simplifying their model? They don't need to worry about that side of things. You could, though, ask your designers to do the simplification, but obviously there's a cost involved in that. It could impact other work that they're already trying to do or employed to do. Projects are really time sensitive nowadays anyway, so the idea of having them doing other work that they don't necessarily need to be doing, it seems a bit pointless. You could rebuild the models from scratch, but that would take even more time. And if one part of the model is incorrect, could you imagine the cost implications to that if you go to implement a layout that's been designed and there's one part that's wrong and everything else just falls down because of that? Or you could deploy an automatic MCAD model simplification solution, which is where we come in. So this is just a brief slide about what our CADFix PPS automatic simplification can do. And this is what we aim to do: simplify as much geometry as possible and make data savings and help your design process become more streamlined, which can benefit people across the company. So then some of the key capabilities through our experience, we have other products and services to support CAD migration, manipulation, some translation as well, meaning that we're a neutral format. So any formats can be imported and exported. We have automated and intelligent functions as well within the software, which target key areas, such as the ones listed above. So some areas that have been pointed out to us, stairways, platform assemblies, they can take a long time to rework or simplify and actually have huge amounts of data within them as well. So all of this is achieved by doing the steps that we'd looked at previously in a really quick automated process that's easy to use. I mentioned at the very beginning that I've not been here that long, but so less than a month, and I have literally no engineering or design experience, and even I can use it just going through the simple tutorials that we've got. It really is that easy to use and get these kinds of results. So just going through some examples. This one was within the workflows that we mentioned earlier, but I thought it was worth highlighting again. So having a skid assembly that's 798 megs, 3000 solids, all the way down to 29 megs and 590 solids, just from a simple 20-minute simplification process. So 96% reduction in 20 minutes is quite impressive. Then you've got another large equipment assembly model, similar kind of thing. So 37 megs as a DWG, 61,000 faces, taken down to 3.7 megs and 3,500 faces. So a 90% reduction in about 25 minutes or so. And then finally, we have a typical example of a platform and stair assembly. What I've done is I've zoomed in on, oh, you can't see my mouse, on this this part here, just to really highlight the major savings that you can get. So this is achieved by converting the grating of the floor into a solid and basic primitive. And yeah, 93% reduction in 10 minutes is quite something. You think about the amount of platforms and stairs that you have within your ship design, that can save you a lot of data, a lot of time, and a lot of money. And then we also have a case study here from one of our clients called Hatch. They were having models regularly sent to them of around 125 megs, which meant that they were spending around 50 hours simplifying them. So we got on board, pardon the pun, and managed to get a file size reduction of 89%. Saved them not only a huge amount of time, but vast amounts of money as well. There are some great quotes here from Hatch as well, which are all available on our website. If you need to have a look at the case studies at a later point, then feel free. So we'd like to think that there's a proven track record of us achieving these results, not just us saying, look what we're able to do. We actually have case studies and, as I've shown to you earlier, some great examples of ways that we've done this and areas that we've managed to cover before. So just a quick summary. Large mechanical CAD equipment models are just far too detailed. They're causing you problems on a daily basis, spending way too much time on them, and really it's just not needed. From a business point of view, there's a need to reduce engineering design labor, and yeah, if you could get automatic equipment model simplification, then it's a win-win, because you're not spending so much time doing things that you wouldn't want to do, not spending so much time on simplification, which means you're able to design more, you're able to manufacture more, and it just increases profitability, which is what we all want to do. So then just finally, I thought it was worth having a look at where you can find some information. So we do have a virtual booth. Feel free to go over there. It's got a great video, but also this link to register for free CADfix PPS evaluation. It's about a 2-week trial, something along those lines. And that link is available in the booth as well. But feel free to get in contact with me or the team just generally if you needed more information. My email address is there, as well as the general email address. And then there's also the landline number for the office and my personal work number as well, my mobile number. So yeah, hopefully you'll be able to get through to us if you need anything or wanted more information. That's it really for us. Were there any questions in the Q&A?
Yeah, we've got one lined up, Liam, for you, and I've got a couple. But Sebastian's asking, do you only simplify mesh representations, or also the actual CAD model?
No.
If so, what export options are available?
Brilliant question. So no, I mentioned the mesh at the very beginning because that was more to do with the simulation side of things that we used to do way back in the day. So yeah, CAD models are absolutely something that we look into and we can do. With regards to the imports and exports, it's also a very good question. So we can import and export all standard mechanical CAD system neutral formats, so step files, for example, which I know are quite common nowadays. But we also support the import of native CAD file formats. So if you're working in SolidWorks, Creo, NX, Inventor, whatever it might be, we have modules to be able to work with that. Yeah, so any kind of format is welcome.
Yeah, I guess that's important because you're often, a shipbuilding project is going to potentially be integrating lots of different mechanical designs from lots of different suppliers and lots of different formats. Absolutely. But you can handle all of that.
Yep, no problem at all. We are more than capable of handling that. Yeah, what comes as standard is the CAD neutral side of things. But if there were more specific native files that you needed, then yeah, we can facilitate that as well.
Great, and bringing together, when you've got a large design teams all working on a design, it can work across those multiple feeds as well. How does that work?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we kind of we see CADfix as a work group solution. Just 1 or 2 licenses can go across the whole team. It's not like a subscription based or what's the word I'm looking for? Single sign-on, where each user has to have a license. We are able to have them floating across multiple workstations on the company's network. So it's really simple, really easy. But equally, because we're a developer, we're not limited to one way of working. If you've got a long-term project and you'd like things for longer than the terms that we're able to offer as standard, then we can work around that. And the same short-term as well. If it would be easier to have just a 1-year license because you're only doing it for that 1 year, that one project, then that's also fine.
Got it. Great. Miguel's got a question here. What would be the best approach to have a detailed generation of production drawings and at the same time a simplified 3D model for digital twins? Which one would you update during production and during operation?
That's a very good question. As I said, I'm pretty new to the role, so I don't know the answer exactly. But what I can do is I can reach out to you afterwards once I've had a quick chat with some of the other guys, if that would help. Sorry, I didn't catch the name, so I will grab your name afterwards. Yeah, we'll reach out and come back to you on that one.
Great. You should be able to see that in the Q&A tab there, Liam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good question. Okay, look, I think that's the questions in the Q&A piece. We're just about on track with our timings this afternoon, so we'll draw it to conclusion there. Thank you very much, Liam. That was a really great run through, and yeah, a really useful piece of software there. I'm sure that with all of this digital transformation that's going on, will come in very handy.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thanks very much for your time today, everybody. Tim, thanks for this. And yeah, if you do need to reach out to me, head over to the booth if you need my information, or equally, it should have been up on the screen, so hopefully you were able to grab it.
Great, thanks. I'll dive off now and go and collect our last speaker for this session. Thanks very much.